Welcome back to Everybody Loves Scott. So today we're back in the garage and I don't have any specific bike to talk about because I wanted to talk to you about as far as how to make your bikes last and be reliable for years to come. Welcome to Everybody Loves Scott's, where I review China bikes and I document the experience of the bike.
When you've gotten what you want, baby, I should start over. It's the thing you want.
Now, I started this channel about a year ago, and there's about 4 bikes that we really talk about, and that would be the Hawk DLX, the 125 Hawk, the Templar M, and also the LaFon KPX. And in that time, I've given reviews about the bikes, and I've done a lot of maintenance videos as far as, servicings and things that you might want to do, putting options on your bike and whatnot. So there's a lot of information I put out there. So I kind of wanted to talk about right from the start. Now this applies to any bike, whether it's a Chinese bike, Japanese bike, European bike, really doesn't matter. You need to take consideration to all of this. Now the one thing you always want to do on your bike, especially before a ride, is check your clutch, your throttle play, make sure the lights are working. Always check your tire pressure. You'd be surprised people that don't do that and they're running around on low tires and wonder why your bike doesn't handle right. So those are some of the things that I normally do anyway to make sure that the bike is running and ready to go. So I recommend that you do that. Now when you get your bike, you put your bike together. I know what everybody wants to do. You want to take it for a ride. I understand that. So as you're putting it together, there's other things you need to do once you get it together and fire it up. You also want to make sure that check your brake fluid. Make sure you have a good quality brake fluid in your bike. And actually I recommend is every year or two you might want to just replace your brake, especially if you notice your brakes are getting spongy. Do you know how to bleed your brakes? Do you know how to actually change the fluid on that? Now what I say in my videos is if you got 2 hands and you're not afraid to use them, or at least use them for something more than just eating, you should be able to do all this stuff. Some people, maybe they don't want to do this. They don't want to get dirt under their fingernails, so maybe they hire somebody to do it. But you want that intimate experience with your bike, so I recommend that you do this kind of stuff. Now, another thing you want to do when you get a new bike is, especially with the Chinese bike, is what kind of spark plug's in it. You want to make sure you have a good quality spark plug, and I recommend an NGK spark plug. I do that straight away. Make sure you put a good spark plug in there so it runs good. It really does make a difference. Now, as far as like a chain, they come with a chain. Any bike, it's going to be a cheap chain. Okay, so I recommend after a couple 100 miles, because it's going to stretch out, you're going to need to adjust it and do things like that, get yourself a good quality chain. And on top of that, make sure that you clean your chain and you lube your chain. It's not a real big deal, but you got to do that. The longer life you can get on your chain and lubing it, you also protect your sprockets. And if you're not into maintenance, you don't want to wear your sprockets out because then you got to change those as well. One of the biggest things is your engine oil. Now, a lot of people look at the owner's manual and say, well, it says I can go 1,500 miles on an oil change. There's always different conditions and things you got to look at. How hard are you riding it? Are you riding at a red line? Is it a hotter climate? Whatever the case may be. This is the lifeblood of your engine, so I recommend changing it definitely more often than what the dealership is trying to tell you, or the manufacturer, reading your manual, whatever the case may be. I like to do it every couple 100 miles. I would say if you go 500 miles to 1,000 miles, you're looking good. Now these bikes don't hold a lot of oil. I mean, you might be looking at 1 to 1.5 quarts of oil. So it's really not expensive. Change your oil. The cleaner the oil, the better your bike's going to run. The other thing is, like if you get in dusty areas or you're taking your bike off-road, and definitely with my Templar, I have to change clean the air filter more often. Clean your air filter. You'd be surprised people that let them gum up, and then your bike doesn't even run right, and you can't figure out why. Clean your air filters. If it's not a good air filter, get yourself a new one. I've done videos on this to show you how to clean it, recommended ones that you can get for your bike and make it actually a healthy running bike. Another important thing, and again, this is every bike, is your valve adjustments. You need to at least check those. You get the bike, the valves might be a little bit tight. Personally, what I've done is with my Hawk DLX, I've checked the adjustment on that like 4 times. On the KPX, I've done that at least twice. I do need to take care of the Templar, but all the bikes are pretty similar as far as adjusting the valves, and you want to make sure for the longevity of your bike that you actually do that. And the other thing is, when you get your bike new, you want to check all the bolts and everything. Well, you also want to do that after you ride your bike. When you're cleaning your bike, and you'd be surprised, cleaning your bike, how many things you'll find that may have come loose. So I highly recommend keep your bike clean, especially if you go off-road. You might find a few bolts that you need to tighten up. You may have to adjust your chain again. Do that stuff. It just makes your bike last longer. One big thing, and I do this to all my bikes, is I put a trickle charger unit cable on it. If you're not riding your bike every day, you're going to want to make sure that you keep the battery charged up. So what I'll do is I'll plug them in periodically, definitely before I'm going to go for a ride, and make sure I have 100% battery life on that. Now, the initial batteries they come with, they may not last that long. So then I recommend that you put in a good quality gel battery, and you'd be surprised the life you can get out of those. They last a long time. And I put a video together on that as well. And then I had somebody ask me about spokes, and I think that's a really good one. You'd be surprised. People look at their bikes, yeah, it has spokes, I'm happy with it, but you need to check them and make sure that they're actually tight. More so if you're taking your bike off-road and you're riding it hard, you need to check your spokes. If you have a loose spoke, you need to get it tightened up because you don't want to, break a wheel out in the trail somewhere and try to push your bike home. So these are really important things that you need to do. Another thing that's really important is the wheel bearings. Okay, when you take your wheels off and even when you initially put it on your bike, check your bearings. Make sure they're smooth. Throw some grease in there. And then you also want to put a little grease on the axle shaft when you put it back together. Because if you don't do that and it rusts in there, good luck getting that shaft out. You'd be using a hammer to try to do that. So really think about that. These are simple things that you need to do. It's not just about riding your bike. It's about maintaining it if you want it to last. Here's a really big one, and I know nobody likes this one, is the steering head bearings. If you look in your manual, most of them will say annually you need to check your bearings, lube, clean. I recommend you do this. You're probably not going to do it when you first get your bike. I understand that. I would say in the first year, take the front end apart, look at your bearings, clean them, put a good quality grease in it, and then put it back together and you will notice a difference because you don't want anything to gum up on your steering. So that's really important in itself right there. And I did a video on that. Yeah, it's labor intensive, but you know what? In the long run, it's definitely a good idea to do. And then the other thing people don't like to do is the shock linkage. And I did a video on that as well. You got to take it apart. I showed you the bearings in there. You got to make sure they're clean, put some grease in there, and you'd be surprised how well your shocks will work. So you really got to look into all that. Now, there's some other things too, and I kind of find it funny is I did videos as far as putting accessories on the bikes and everything. And I actually had somebody say, do not buy the fairing for the KPX. That's a nice little fairing. It attaches. I did a video on this and I showed you how you're going to have to modify it a bit to mount the clamps for the handlebars to actually make it work. You can modify it down. It's fine. I put it together. It's good and sturdy. But somebody panicked and they gave me a message and said, this is dangerous. Don't do this. You're going to die if you buy this. I don't know what he did, how much metal he grinded off, or whatever the case may be, but I gave a complete video on how to do it, and it's secure. And he said if you get in a crash or something, that you could actually break off your handlebars and have no way to ride your bike back. Well, the way I look at this is, if you crash your bike, things are going to break. So what you do, if you're worried about you can't get your bike back after you crash, well, as they're loading you up into the ambulance, that's when you call your roadside service, tell them where your bike is so they can pick it up and bring it to wherever you want it. Bring it to your house, bring it to a mechanic, whatever the case may be. And it kind of is funny because I remember when I took my son for a ride, and he tipped the bike over. He wiped out. No big deal, okay? So I said, you know what? Hold my beer. I told him, stand aside. Let me get the bike up for you. Let me get the bike running. And you just got to look at it. You got to dust yourself off, get back on the bike. You can't be scared that you're going to die every time you crash the bike or whatever the case may be. Get on there, put your big boy pants on, pop that clutch, do a wheelie, and get the hell out of here. And guess what? It worked. And you know what? That's when the fear goes away. So people that have all this fear, I've had other messages and people are just, they're scared of their bikes. And this one guy said, maybe you shouldn't even be riding a motorcycle. I mean, you can't live in fear. If you live in fear, stay inside the bubble inside your house. I don't know. But anyway, I've made a lot of videos, more than 30 videos. I've got a lot of them out there that tell you how to service your bike and make it last as long as you want. And that's as simple as I've got a chain replacement, how to put a good quality chain on, your spokes, how to check them, how to tighten them, your air filter, how to clean it, your shock linkage, like I said, how to lube it, battery replacement. I've done oil changes. I've even talked about rejetting your carburetor if you got a Templar and what you might want to do with that. I've even done wheel balances. If on the road you got a little wobble, maybe you need to balance your wheels. I've done that too. And then a rear shock upgrade on the Templar. How to put a better shock on, you'd be surprised. It makes a world of difference. And on the Hawk, I even went so far as to change the clutch springs, and that made a big difference. And it's like it brought the power of the bike out. It just engages so well. These are things you have to do. And I definitely want to go back to that steering head bearing. You got to do that greasing. I know you don't want to. I've seen videos of people selling their bike, and they know something's wrong in the front end. It's because they've never replaced the bearings, cleaned them, or greased them, or whatever the case may be. If you do these things, your bike's going to last as long as you want it to. So get your hands dirty. Don't be scared. And now it's time to have a beer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.